Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve. So, today, Alex and I are going to discuss the most FI way to buy a car. So, over the last week, I got an email from accountant Alex on Sunday afternoon and he's made a little spreadsheet, done some maths, done some thinking about different ways of purchasing cars. And I was intrigued by it. So we decided to make the episode about it, which is one day later, because today is Monday, the 10th of June. So, Alex, we're going to talk about ways in which people can purchase cars, and really we'll dig a bit into the math side of it. I'll do a bit of the feeling psychology bit of it, and we'll really hopefully just outline our thoughts on buying cars and what you could be doing with the money. Is there better ways to invest that money? Is it the right thing to do? Is it not? Of course, it depends on your own situation, but we're going to give it some numbers and see what comes from it.
Yeah, hi Alex and hi everybody. This is hopefully going to be an insightful episode on different ways to buy a car. And I think probably it goes at the outset, the most, FI way to buy a car is to ultimately you don't have a car and you live, um, you can take public transport and bike or walk, but ultimately it's very likely that one is going to have a car. And I think just as a maybe just as before we dive into all the detail on some of the numbers, I mean, I can talk about, it was maybe worth touching on our car history a little bit. So I've always, my family have always kind of purchased all the cars for cash. I've, done the same as I've kind of grown older, apart from my initial car that was a hand-me-down from my parents when I passed my driving license. I've passed my driving test, rather. I've managed to, I've basically just bought all the cars, and I wasn't even aware, to be honest, of car financing until quite until I went to buy my first car as an adult. Um, and even, as an accountant coming from it, it's really quite overwhelming, the options that are available, and it's really confusing. And is it hopefully I'm going to be able to talk through some of the different options and what they mean and some of the opportunity cost. But yeah, before we dive into that, I don't know, Alex, what was your kind of car history like growing up, and what kind of household did you grow up in when it came to cars?
So my dad, it's fair to say that he loves cars. Kind of has always had what I would consider to be nice cars, and in my opinion, spent a lot of money on them. But I think he got a lot from it as well. So he's a kind of a true petrol head in that sense. So he's always had kind of shiny cars. He'd spend some time washing them, cleaning them, etc. Quite a lot of time driving them around, and me. But I've always been a lot more conservative. I don't think I've ever owned a car that I paid more than £2,500 for, including up to today. And I've had two Peugeots, a Mazda, a BMW, Toyota, and a couple of Volvos. So I think eight. I think I've had eight or maybe nine cars now. And a Nissan, yeah, nine. And I've never paid more than that for it. I've bought them cheaply. I've maintained them every year, taken them to a garage and have them serviced, etc. Fixed things as and when they've come up, and I've been very happy with them. To be honest, it's not really entered my head to take out a loan for a car. It's not something that I would consider at all, really. I'm quite happy and content with the cars that I have because for some reason, I don't seem to be able to keep them in very good condition. I'm forever scraping my car down a hedge. I've driven slowly into my own fence on the sides of my driveway. One of my cars, once in the snow a couple of years ago, just rolled into the front of our house on the ice. And when I reversed it back up and put the handbrake on and etc., it just rolled straight back into it again. So I on purpose kind of have old cars because if I do prang them, I do knock them into something, I just like not worry about it. So long as I'm okay and I'm healthy, then that's the most important thing to me. So that's a short rundown of my thoughts on cars and where I've been.
Oh, quite. quite the collection you've had then. I've only had one car in my adult life that wasn't a hand-me-down. Um, but yeah, I think so. Just to as if we dive into this, and there's a few numbers here, but I'm hopefully able to explain them so you're able to follow. Um, but I was doing a bit of research over the weekend on various things. One of which was the different options of buying a car, and I used a website called Cinch, which I think is one of the kind of car supermarkets, one of the newer ones. And I just put in a what would a kind of typical family hatchback car. So it was a Ford Focus, 1.5 litre. It was 4 years old with 38,000 miles on the clock. So pretty solid car. It was blue. And the cash price, so if you wanted to buy that outright, was £15,000. And I looked at purchasing that on finance through their website and the different options that were available. And I'd done it over 48 months, so that's 4 years. So that's a fairly good lifespan for the car. And assuming we drive 10,000 miles a year, which is, probably fairly average. And the options there. So what I'll do is talk through the different options that came up through the website. I'll also then we can maybe talk about that, and then we can talk about a different option of maybe buying a car for a lot less. And I should say as well up front, I've assumed that somebody's got has got £3,000 in a bank ring fence to purchase a car with, and so we're going to be putting £3,000 down on that car. And the options are for a PCP, so it's a personal contract plan. And the way that these kind of mechanisms work is you put down a deposit and then there is a monthly cost. And at the end of which you pay for the 48 months. And then at the end of that, there is a balloon payment or an optional payment, which you pay if you then want to own the car. If you don't pay that balloon payment, you then have to send the car back to the garage. And so what this works out at is so your purchase price is 15,000, you're going to put £3,000 down on the day. Your monthly cost is going to be £230. And so you're going to be paying that then for 48 months. And then your final payment would be £4,908. And then at the end of the 4 year period, you own that car. So that is a lot of numbers, but what does that mean? So you've bought a car, which was £15,000 to pay for cash. And then the total amount that you're going to be paying under that arrangement is £18,962. So you're going to be paying about just under £4,000 purely in interest cost of that. So that was option one. But the way that it's shown on the website, and I think it's the same for a lot of car companies, not just Cinch that I used. There are obviously loads of others available, but it was the monthly cost was you can see the car and it was from X £100 a month, and it's the lowest price that they obviously give you, so it looks really appealing. Even though that looks like a low number, once you add it all together, it's quite you're paying quite a lot. And so that was the almost what looked like the cheapest option from a monthly cost basis, but was the most expensive. The other option was what they call a hire purchase. So the way this works is there is no final payment at the end. I think you pay £10 as a kind of nominal fee for them to transfer the ownership to you, but the monthly cost is a lot higher. I say a lot higher. It goes instead of your £230 a month under your PCP agreement, you pay £311 a month, and then at the end of the kind of the 4 years, you will have paid just under £18,000 for that car, and so you'd have paid about £3,000 in interest. So there's about £1,000 difference just in the cost of financing between those two options. And so again, the car when you bought it was worth £15,000, and doing my bit of research on Auto Trader, at the end of that 4 year period, with a car that will have, you'll have added 40,000 miles to the clock, so you'll be on just under 80,000 miles and 8 years old, you're probably looking at about £7,500 for that car. So during that time period, you'll come out of it, and at the end, you'll have a car worth £7,500. That was a lot of information. Alex, do you have questions, comments? I mean, ultimately, you're paying a 15 grand car. PCP, you'd be paying, call it £19,000 in total. And if you did a hire purchase, you'd be paying £18,000 in total, is a summary.
I like the summary, and I think it's helpful to hear those numbers outright because I feel like when people go in to buy cars, they buy with their heart, they buy with emotion. They don't probably buy with the rational part of their brain that deals with money or hopefully deals with money. They just kind of go in hoping, oh, I can afford this deposit, I can afford the monthly ongoing payment, which is actually borrowing from their future self. They haven't earned the money yet, but they're signing up to commit themselves to earning that money. And in my opinion, reducing freedom at that point to have a car to get them from A to B. And I mean, there are hundreds of ways that cars can be. You can justify any of these things to yourself, and if you think this is the right decision for you, then of course do it. You don't need to change your mind based on what we think. Just know all sides before you make a decision like it. But I think, Alex, the nuts and bolts of it are you're paying more for the convenience of having that car over time, perhaps because they make it easy for you. I've regularly seen trucks delivering cars. In fact, my neighbour had one delivered a couple of weeks ago, and it just rolled off the back of the truck. They did a bit of a chat and a handover, and they just handed them the keys, and away the truck goes, and you keep the car. So they even bring them to you. You don't even have to go to a showroom, or I'm not even sure if they test drove one. I've no idea, but there's a cost to that convenience, and there's something there about how it makes people feel buying a new car. And I think those emotions are different for people. I would probably be full of anxiety about parking it, scraping it down a hedge, I don't know, letting it run into the front of my house or something silly like that, and then having to pay loads of money to have it fixed. Whereas I think other people feel happy that they've worked hard to be able to afford like a car like that. They might consider it a nice thing to have or a prestigious thing to have. So it's a real emotional heart and head combination. So, in terms of Alex, the one question I do have, if someone were to take the option of buying the car outright, kind of maintaining it themselves, etc., and not having one of these payment plans, if they took the money they've now not spent, they would have some, well, obviously some cash spare. Did you do any maths about what how much that would be, or what they would have if they were to invest it? Of we've as we've often talked about.
I did, actually. Good job. I was prepared for that. But yeah, I did do that. And I think this is one thing which, so there is the option that you've got, in this example where you've got £3,000 saved up ring fence for a car. You can go and pay £3,000 and buy a car outright and run it and um, be steady away. And when the car finally retires, pay, use some of your savings to buy another one. But there is the option of if you're in a position where actually you're willing to be, you know, you put down your £3,000 deposit for your car and also paying a monthly car payment, for example, that we used for the hire purchase was £311, then if you were to instead invest that money, so assuming that you pay for your car cash £3,000 and then you just save that £311 car payment, and at the end of it, you would have, and assume you have no interest, you'd have just under £15,000 saved up. And which is huge, and that's assuming no return. If you were to invest that conservatively and earn 5% return, you'd be on about £16,500. And, you know, that £16,500 at a 5% return is over those 4 years is huge. And essentially the option then, if I'm looking at it this way, is you've you could go away and put a car on finance, or doing it this way, use your £3,000 that you've already got, use some of that future income that you're going to be ring fence for the car payment anyway, and then at the end of it, you've got £16,500 in cash. And then if you want to, you just repeat the process again. And if you buy another car at £3,000 and rinse and repeat. So yeah, it's a huge amount of money that you could actually have and that's deferring gratification for 4 years. Seeing the numbers and looking at them in the round like this, I think for me it's a no-brainer which option to go for. But yeah, £16,500 that you'd have by investing that monthly car payment whilst driving a slightly older car. And I actually found a car to buy for cash, which was still a Ford Focus. So it was a 2009 Ford Focus, the same kind of spec and the same engine. It had done 57,000 miles, which is you know, still a spring chicken in modern car term. And that was priced at £3,000. And that was something that could easily last you for 4 years. So there are definitely cars out there. Yes, they're not going to be as new. They won't have the kind of social connotations of a newer car, but it is still a car. And we were discussing before the podcast in our prep session, and cars are probably going to be idle for, I think it was like 12% of the time. Sorry, they're only used for about 12% of their time, because most often than not you're driving yourself to work, and then the rest of the time it's in the office car park or stood at home. So it's when you start thinking of it like that and you see the nuts and bolts of the numbers from a purely rational kind of financial decision, buying something for cash and saving that car payment that you were going to be paying anyway is a much more attractive option, is my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I think obviously I agree with you. It might be fun one day just to discuss an episode where you and I believe different things, and we'll see how that one goes or something like that, if anything like that exists. But I feel like I agree that buying a cheaper car and running it to the ground, perhaps learn some maintenance yourself, is the right way to do it. That's if you earn what I think is like an average salary. If you're bringing in 15K a month, a week, something like that, and you want to spend £300 a month of that on a car, by all means do it. But I think if you're earning a regular salary, so someone in the UK might earn, I don't know, 1,800, £1,900 a month, taking away 300, £350 of that, plus insurance, plus tax. I mean, insurance is going to be more because it's a newer car, I gather, probably. Thinking about postcodes as well and all the other costs that go along with it, it's going to be a chunk of your take home pay. It's not really something, it's not a rounding error. It's a kind of a chunky amount. And you've had to work hard for that. So I think if you are sitting here listening to it, perhaps in your leased car, driving to work or home from work or whatever, think about how much this car's actually costing you. And then we've discussed before your true hourly rate. So have a look at how many hours per month you're having to work just to sit in the car you're sitting in to drive yourself to and from work. And then work out how much that's cost you over the period of time. And then look at a compound interest calculator and see what saving even half of that would add up to in 4, 5, 6, 10 years or even longer over a working career. And I think you'll be surprised how much money you could have and really the opportunity cost of driving a car which fundamentally does the same thing, so long as it's safe. Like, we're not here saying ditch safety and drive to work in a Reliant Robin or something with three wheels. It's always get something safe and reliable, etc. Um, Alex, do you think any differently, or is there anything else you kind of want to mention? I've got some other stats here about just the general amount of money that people in the UK spend on cars, but is there anything else consumer focused you want to mention first?
Yeah, I think we've covered most of it. I think that there was a really good phrase, which it was that the minimalists, or I heard them say it, which is when it comes to cars, and it's something like, your essentially driving to work to pay for the thing that's taking you to work. When I always found that was quite a kind of pithy way of looking at the car if you're financing it. As you said, if you're pulling in £10,000 a month, like go wild, like easily, spend five, six, £700 a month if you want. Like it's fine. But I think this is very much positioned at the more average earners who are
Regular people.
regular people, exactly right, and hence like the example was a very regular car and not a Bentley or Aston Martin or something like that. But I think it always comes down to that. It's being mindful and intentional, and they do the same job. And your point on safety is yeah, paramount. Like we're not saying to go and buy a, 40-year-old banger with no windows or doors. It's still buy something that's going to get you there safely, recognizing that it's still doing the same job, and you're still going to be sat in the same traffic, whether that's in a 15-year-old car or a or a brand new BMW or a brand new Audi or something. It doesn't change your experience.
Yeah, you could be. No, you could be stuck in because I've seen now you say that phrase. I've seen adverts on the back of like buses and lorries and stuff that says get stuck in traffic in a nicer car or listen to a particular song in a nicer car. And I was actually just to flip that on its head, you could either be stuck in traffic on the way to work or coming home from work or whatever, losing money because the money you're making is going towards paying for the car, or you could be sitting in a paid off car that in its entirety it belongs to you, and your investments are churning away in the background, earning you extra money. And I wonder whether, as well, just as a thought exercise, provide some extra kind of flavor to it, work out how much money your car's truly costing you per month or per year, include whatever it costs to lease or hire or borrow or whatever. Include fuel, include tax, insurance, stuff like that, car washes if you're regular at that kind of thing, and then work out how much money you've had to earn to be able to spend that. So add your 20% tax and your national insurance. Um, I forget the percentage for that. Um, but yeah, add those up and see how much of your money that you're earning is going simply on a car. Because I think that people they don't misunderstand it, but I think they misjudge how much these things actually cost because they don't take into account all the other nuances, certainly of ownership. And I think as well, newer cars they might be more reliable as a whole, but I think if they do need any mechanical work, it's often dealer only software and particularly shaped spanners or whatever, where you have to go to the kind of franchise dealer for it. You can't just take it to a local mechanic and have them do a couple of hours of an hourly rate work to it. So I think there's a lot of different kind of kind of flavors and nuances to it. And one other thing with just cars, I mean, one of my favorite cars was a Toyota Estate I bought from a friend of my dad's, and I'm again privileged to that my dad kind of connected me to this guy, and I knew I wasn't going to get ripped off, etc. But it was a Toyota um, Avensis from 2007, and I bought it for £1,200, and I drove it. It had 162,000 miles on it at that point, and over 3 years, I drove it all the way up to 244,000 miles, and then eventually my mechanic, he's called Tony, he said, Alex, get rid of this thing before it costs you a fortune. And then I kept it another year just to test his theory because it was worth so little. It was covered in scrapes and scratches and stuff. And I drove it another year, and again, nothing went wrong. And the next year, he told me the exact same thing. Please get rid of this thing. And then he was right that year, and it did cost me a fortune, and I had to have it towed off the driver's scrap. So at the same time, it was reliable. It got me around, no problem. I even went to 4 different countries in it as well in Europe. Um, I did buy breakdown cover, including European towing back to England or whatever it's called. I don't know, just to cover all bases. But I never needed it. It was a waste of money. But yeah, had it in hindsight. Yeah, I think just be mindful about what you're spending. You guys and ladies and men out there, you earn a lot. You work really hard to earn the money that you earn. we don't want you to be wasting that money. We want you to keep as much of it as possible, to keep it in for you and in the family, etc. And to be able to make good life choices from it, to give you freedom. And in my opinion, certainly, and I only speak for myself here, that leasing a car is signing up to continue to do a job that you might not love for the next however many years, because you've bought yourself a way of getting to that job that you don't particularly enjoy, perhaps, and it kind of shackles you to it. Um, Alex, I know that's a big tangent. Have you got anything more?
I think that's a really nice way of putting it. And I just wanted to also clarify, I love cars. I really do. I used to read car magazines, and at the back you used to get like the detail pages of all the cars, and these had like a little tiny picture, and I cut out the ones that I wanted and I put them in my wallet. So I had like my dream garage carried around in my wallet for many, many years. Um, but I think as you get older and you start to, certainly for me, as I started to look at, becoming financially independent, these are compromises that I'm willing to make early on. And that's not to say I won't have a nice car later, but it's that I recognize the sacrifice and the opportunity cost of doing exactly what you say, of committing yourself to really large car payments for the purpose of looking that you're doing well. And that means adding years and years to potentially not, having to do something you don't want to do. And buying cars such as it sounds amazing, your Toyota Avensis estate car, and I know it must have so much personality, that thing. But I think that's definitely the right way to go. And yeah, I just don't want anybody feeling it's from a an anti-car person. I do love them, but it's the rational person in me is can't can't not do it. And when I first started my accountancy training, literally we used to go to a college after work, and then my tutor the first time said, "Right, congratulations everybody, you're all going to be accountants, and that means you're going to be driving beige Volvos for the rest of your life because they're just like the most rational thing and the safest thing to buy." And yeah, it's not going to be too far wrong, I don't think. But yeah, that was my
No, that is funny. I think, yeah, I don't have that Toyota anymore, and I do miss it purely because it was mostly effortlessly reliable and really quite cavernous. I could throw loads of stuff in it. I had it about 4 days before I scraped it down a scaffolding pole, and it left a humongous kind of dent and gouge out of the left hand side. And after that, I was a bit sad, and I was like, well, it's only a car; it didn't damage me. And it kind of picked up war wounds wherever I went. And at one point, I got stuck in the mud, had to get an ambulance crew to push me out of it. I didn't need any ambulance help; they just were kind and they stopped. Yeah, so we went out of there, drove it through France, Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands as well. There was no problem with that. But back to my general point, and you said it's got some character. It was actually like my wife couldn't decide what car she wanted to turn up to our wedding in, and I didn't know because I was staying out of the house by that point for a few days before we got married, and she turned up in that Toyota with some white ribbon all over it, and she'd had it kind of cleaned, etc. Because I never used to wash the outside. And I was very, very surprised that actually that was the car she turned up in. I don't know if it's lack of other choice or she just didn't want to faff with something different. But it's yeah, I think it's in one of our wedding photos. I'm not sure. So I was a bit sad when I had to scrap that thing off of our driveway. But in true kind of fashion like that, it left a big scrape all along our driveway as the guy hauled it off our drive. So if you look closely, you can still see its remnants of when it used to live here. Yeah, anyway, Alex, and again, another tangent, but just before we close this, when we get to financial independence, are you going to still drive the grey, boring Volvo thing, or would you leverage a bit of that extra wealth? And if you are going to leverage the wealth, what what car would you buy? What's the dream car? Because I've got two in my head, and I'd like to hear yours first.
yeah. I mean, I think realistically, our plan is to, do a lot more camping and cross-continental driving, and a kind of big estate car is the one that it basically answers that question. So I think will be the kind of rational thing and the likely thing will be some form of like big estate car. But I mean, what I would do is, and my absolute dream, like schoolboy dream car is like a Ferrari. I just think they're amazing. Um, and so that's always the dream. But my deal to myself would be I would have my portfolio income, which will support my kind of lifestyle to a certain level. And then if I want anything like that, I then have to go and work and earn extra money to then go and buy that, or just continue to build, as my investments grow, if they can then generate more than I anticipate, maybe something like that. But that is way, way down the line and still an absolute dream. But I would sacrifice ever having a Ferrari to have a beige Volvo to be able to go around and spend my time the way I want to spend my time. So yeah, those are the realistic answer and the absolute dream. But how about you? You say you have two dream cars.
Yeah, I mean, one's a bit, but I mean, yeah. Full disclosure here, I do own a Volvo estate already. I only own one because a friend of ours who lives down the road is a mechanic for Volvo, and I said to him, "Look, I need another car. I'd like a Volvo estate. See what you can dig up." And then he rang me in a couple of weeks later, and he said, "Like, my pal mechanics, her mum's getting rid of a Volvo estate. It's on my driveway. If you want to come and have a look at it." And I walk down. It's like 2 minutes on foot down the road, and I bought it from him. Literally that evening, and again, it's because I had some money spare that I'd been saving up to buy a car. So when the opportunity arose, I could take that. So that's another kind of good money management thing that I was able to do. Yeah, so it's not beige. I have owned a beige car though. It was a Nissan, like a Nissan Micra, one of these. I got called the hearing aid by my mates for a long, long time. Um, it's one of the bubble shaped things from
Oh yes,
2009 or something. Like when your
looks like a
grandma
frog.
buys a new car. Yeah,
Yeah.
terrible. Absolutely shocking, these things. But yeah, got me around. Got me to some nursing placements that at 5 a.m. in the morning. It was very, very good. But yeah, anyway, I've got a Volvo estate now. I would love a V70 estate. An older one would be good with the solid 2.5 litre diesel engine, bulletproof but expensive to kind of run. I think the tax is like 400 quid a year or something mad now. But if money was no object, I would probably have. I mean, I'm nearly 36. I'm too old now, I think, to be getting in and out of a Ferrari. So when the time comes, I will borrow yours if that's okay with you. And
Oh, never
I
never
would.
too old for a Ferrari.
Oh, I don't know. My knees creak. Yeah, I think you're right. But money being no object, I would have some form of Bentley or
Mm.
Rolls Royce. It's the quiet, kind of understated luxury of that, knowing that when you put your foot down, it's going to go really quickly. That's my interpretation of it, and I think it just exudes niceness. Yeah,
As a quick follow-up, in your Rolls Royce, would you drive it or would you be driven in it?
I would have to drive it. I'm a terrible passenger.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, I would have to drive it. And yeah, last thing on cars, really, I wonder whether like we all have these dreams of having schoolboy legendary cars like your Ferrari, etc. Have you ever thought about, say, when you go on holiday somewhere, or I don't know, say you're going to Italy, for example, for a 2 week holiday? Do you either rent and you need to rent a car because you're going to some places that are far away, or whatever, you just want to rent a car? Do you get a boring Fiat 500 for not much money at all, or do you go all out and get and rent like a Ferrari for 2 weeks? And yeah, it'll cost you, I don't know, 10, 20 times the amount, but imagine the experience of that over driving a little boring Fiat 500.
Well, having been in Italy and seeing how people treat their cars, I would definitely not rent a Ferrari in Italy. Uh, but I no, I think it's a good question. I mean, I normally buy the basic car, does me fine. I see the I like the idea. I had a friend who's just come back from did a trip down California, and he got like a 4x4, and I was like, oh, surely you get the red Mustang. to go down, and he said it was so expensive, like almost more than the entire trip. So I think the at present that's not an option for me to go and yeah, go all out and say rent a Ferrari and drive around Italy. Although it would be absolutely unforgettable. Maybe some good ways and some bad ways, but
Yeah, wouldn't it? It would be, yeah, loads of amazing times overspending a little bit of money. And I think sometimes I go through this thought of you're never going to miss the money when you're gone. So buy the thing, do the thing, go to the place. Yeah, something like that. So I think a good balance of being sensible um, with something like that. But I've always wanted to go somewhere like that, like Italy, France, or something, and rent like either a classic car or some kind of supercar like that, just for the experience and the thrill of it. But then the rational part of my head says no. I wonder if I can kind of undo that, and if I do it, I'll report back on whether I thought it was worth it or not. But again, you could run there. You could rent one, couldn't you? You could rent a track day car or something, and just get all of that out, all that steam out of your system.
yeah, I always loved the like the old Top Gear challenges where they used to do like drive like from their studio in London to Italy or Switzerland or something in a supercar, and then they'd want to be in a car and the others would say like take an aeroplane or a train or a ferry or something. I've always wanted to, yeah, something like that would be awesome. But yeah, as of now, I'm happy with my Renault Clio, and we'll we'll see. I might keep an ear out for any Volvos for sale from your pals.
Yeah, yeah, he's a very good guy. The our friendly Volvo mechanic. My this is a massive tangent, and I'm not surprised if some guys would have switched off. But I bought and I bought it from him only because my wife met him walking a dog, and they just got talking about similar dogs, and then he says, "Oh, I work for Volvo down the road. If you ever need anything, here I am." Um, and then I don't know if he regrets that or not because I ask him stuff all the time. And he's a good egg, this guy. So yeah, thank you, Andy. You're super. Right, it's 38 minutes. I think we've gone way off track. So we've gone from kind of five ways to buy cars to should we rent Italian Ferraris? Is there anything, Alex, anything else you want to mention about car buying, leases, other thoughts?
No, I think we've covered it all, and I think probably just in summary, try and buy an older car for cash and save on the car payment is probably the best way of doing it.
Yeah, I think I agree. And if you have to factor in a car payment to your five figures, that's going to be an awful lot. You're going to have to need an awful lot more to for your portfolio to chuck out another £300-400 a month. Um, you'll be surprised how much difference that makes to the total for your fire number. So if you can be content with an older car, it doesn't have to be a Volvo, but it could be, you can then perhaps retire earlier and have a bit more of your time back. None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.